So let's actually get all of this software set up so that we can properly use it in this course. So first I'm going to go to atom.io and just download the Atom software. And this will save as a zip file. And while that's going, I'm also going to go to git-scm.com. And Git has its version right here. Download version 2.16.3 for Mac. And there we go. I'll go ahead and save this as well. And then lastly, we need to create a GitHub account. So I can pick a username, an email address. I would use your school email address, a password, and you sign up. There's one point in the sign up system where you select a plan, and you can just pick the free plan. We don't need to have the pro plan or anything like that. So now that all of that is finished, let's go ahead and open up these files and install them. So I'm going to install Git first. So I have this git.dmg file. If I just double click it on Mac, it'll verify it, mount it, and I have this .pkg file that I need to run. It may tell you whenever you try to run it that it's from the internet. You just have to say allow. If it still doesn't work, what you can do is right click it and say open, and then that should allow it. That should force it to install. Once it's finished and it's installed, we can go ahead and hit close. Just move it to trash, that's fine. And we can eject this. Great. Now let's install Atom. Atom's a .app file. We need to move this into our applications folder. The easiest way to do this in Finder is to go Applications, and move it into our Applications folder. Okay, great. We need to do some configuring for Git before we continue. And Git is not actually like a piece of software that you run. It runs in the background, so we have to use what's called the terminal in order to access Git. This is a little bit scary for some people, but it's really not a big deal. We simply can click Spotlight up here and search terminal and hit enter. And the terminal should open up. Now your terminal might look a little bit different than mine, but basically the terminal is just a place where you can input commands. So I can type in commands here, and whenever I hit return, it'll tell me, okay, well that command wasn't found, obviously. But basically that's how it works. It's very simple. The commands that we need to use to set up Git are really simple. We just type in git space config space and then hyphen hyphen, so two little dashes, global. And then we need to type in user.name space, and then we can type in a username. If it's one word, we can just type it in that way. If we want to use our full name, we need to do it in quotes. So Cameron Buckley. And I hit return, and we're good to go. And then we have the same thing. We have a slightly different thing for the second piece of code. We do git config hyphen hyphen global user email. We just type in our email address. And now Git is configured. That's the only thing we have to do. So type in git config hyphen hyphen global space user.name space and then your username, and then git config hyphen hyphen global user.email. So that's all we need to do. And this email needs to be the same email that we're using on GitHub. Okay, we can go ahead and close out of that. Git is good to go. It's all been set up. Let's go ahead and open up Atom. And whenever we open up Atom, we're going to be greeted with this screen, this welcome guide on the right, and a welcome screen on the left. We have an untitled document. See these tabs at the top. This untitled document we can just close. The telemetry consent, you can say yes or no. And then the welcome page. So we can either have this, so it's always going to show this or never going to show this. I'm just going to uncheck that because I don't really need it. And I can close out of that one. Now we just have one tab, the welcome guide. And all we need to do is install some packages, which right here we have install a package. Now packages are basically the things that make Atom work. So Atom is this extendable software. We can keep adding packages to it that add different pieces of functionality. So it has this great extensibility, and people will write custom packages. So let's say they want Atom to do a very particular thing, then they'll install a certain package for it. So for this, to get this all set up, we're going to click Install a Package. We can click Open Installer right here. If you don't see this, you can simply click Atom, Preferences, and then Install on the left. And we're going to search for a few packages. We're going to type in Atom HTML, and I just hit Return. And this Atom HTML preview is what we're going to be using. So we'll click Install on that one. Color Picker is another one. So I'll click Install on that one. And then Atom Beautify, like beautiful but beautify. Okay, great. Whenever we're good, we can close this settings tab. We're back to our welcome guide. And we're actually done with Atom for now. So let's go back to our web browser. So I'm in Firefox. I have GitHub open. And I'm going to go ahead and sign into GitHub. Whenever you sign into GitHub, you're going to see this Learn Git in GitHub without any code. You can read the guide, start a project, and then over here you'll have repositories. You may not actually see all these. I'm just going to click Start a Project. And it's going to say the owner is this, repository name. So let's give it a name. So this is what our project name will be called. And I'll just call this My First Project. Great. We can give it a description. We have to leave it as public. That's fine. And then there's this initialize this repository with a README. I'll go ahead and check that. That's fine. And I'll click Create Repository. And a repository is basically another name for a project in GitHub. So we've created this initial project on here. We can see it says Cameron Buckley A State. That's my username. And then My First Project. We have all these different things on here. We'll go over what all this stuff means a little bit later. But basically, we can see all the files of our project right here, and we even get a little preview of our file. So right now we have a readme.md, which is just a text file. It's just a readme file. So I'm just going to click back on My First Project. And any changes we make in Atom will automatically upload to this. So I'm back in my project window, and I'm going to click this Clone or Download. There's this address right here. I just need to copy that. Now let's switch back to Atom. Now that I'm in Atom, I need to do what's called a command. And this can be a little bit confusing, and we'll get more into this whenever we get deeper into Atom. But for now, you're just going to do Command, Shift, and then P on your keyboard. P as in print. And it's going to open up the command window. I'm going to type in Git, and the first result is GitHub clone. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's saying clone from and send it to this directory and make a new project there. So we can just paste that URL. So this is going to be in a folder in my home folder called GitHub. If I want to change this, for instance, let's do desktop. I just click clone, and it's cloned my project. Look at that. My First Project, there's this .git folder, and then there's our README. And look, our README is right here. So if I switch back to my browser, we have our README file right here. Here's our README file. Great. So I'm just going to double click to edit it. Here is my first change. And notice it gets these little yellow bars over here, this little kind of orangish tan bars. That means that we've made a change there. Now whenever I save this file, so if I go File, Save, or if I do Command S, it highlights it in that same color. That means that there's a change, but the change hasn't been committed to Git. Committing a change means that you've sent it to GitHub and you've said, yes, this change is good. I want to update my project with this. So this is why they call it version control software, because it lets you create these different versions of your project. So as you keep building it, you have all these backups basically. So we've saved this. I've saved the file. It's highlighted in yellow. And now we need to send it to Git. Now the easiest way to do that is we can go View, and there's Git tab. We can also click down here. It'll open up the same Git tab. So we're looking at this. It says unstaged changes. So these are files that have changed. And if I click that, it's going to actually show me the changes. So it says that you added a line here and you gave it this text. Okay, cool. So I can see all the changes that I made. So if I'm good with those, I just click Stage All. And now it says these are the changes that you've staged. Cool. I have to give it a message. So this message is like telling people, here's the changes that I made. So I'll say, just some initial changes. And then we click Commit. Whenever I click Commit, it's going to send it down here to this little up one. So this is saying that we're uploading one file. And I'm going to click Push. Now it's asking me for my credentials on GitHub, so I'll just type those in. And let's see if those changes appeared on GitHub. So we're back on GitHub. I'm going to refresh this page. And look at that. Our changes have appeared. We have 2 commits. That means that there's been 2 changes. So our first initial commit. And now here's just some initial changes, right? Because that was the text I put in. If I click it, I can see what the changes were that I made. Leave a comment. So we have officially connected GitHub to our Atom. So now any changes that we make to this project, so even if I add a new file, so let's say I make a new file, this is something that we'll do with our first project. It's green, it's saying that file hasn't been added yet. And I'll just put in some content. Okay, whenever I save that, it's saying here's your stage changes, I just click Stage All. So it puts them in this stage, and then I say, sending my index file. It's always good to have a little comment, and you have to have a comment or else it won't let you commit. I click Commit, click this, I say Push, and it's pushed that change. Let's go back in here, refresh that page, and we have a new commit. So now we have the README and we have our index file. Okay? So those are the very bare basics. That's how exactly I want you to set this up on a Mac, but we are good to go on here. So anytime that you make a new project, basically your workflow from here on out is I make a project on GitHub, so I can go over here, I create a new repository, I create that repository, copy that link, Command-Shift-P, GitHub clone, clone it, boom, I got it in there. We're good to go. Okay, this is how you're going to create new projects in Atom and send them to GitHub so that they're available for everybody, including me, to look at and grade.